Everyone. So today I would like to demonstrate to you our new Gemnasium support for Yarnberry. But let me first start with explaining what is actually Yarnberry. So you might be familiar with Yarn, which is a very popular package manager for JavaScript, right? And it's actually Yarn v1, which is also being called Yarn Classic. It's something that is widely used. So after Yarn v1, there have been two major releases out there, and that's Yarn v2 and Yarn v3. Both these major releases, they were worked on a different project named Yarnberry. And hence, when we refer to a major Yarn release which is above one, so Yarn 2 or Yarn 3, we usually call that Yarnberry. So with Gemnasium version 3.13.0, we actually introduced support for Yarn v2 and v3. That means that you can actually do your dependency scanning. You can run your dependency scanning job on your pipelines, and a vulnerability report will be created, including so for Yarn v2 and Yarn v3 projects. What we currently do not support yet is Yarn workspaces, which will be ignored, dependency paths. So that means that on the GitLab UI, usually when you see the vulnerabilities and the dependencies that introduce those vulnerabilities, you usually see the path. So how did this dependency was introduced? Because sometimes we have a dependency that introduces another dependency, and then that second dependency might introduce a vulnerability. And finally, we do not support for Yarnberry auto remediation. Just a reminder, we do support it though for Yarn Classic. So that being said, let me first show you the new release. So this is the Gemnasium repo. You see that there is already a new release for version 3.13, and as you can see here, it supports Yarn v2 and Yarn v3. For the sake of the demo, we have two projects. We have a Yarn v2 project and a Yarn v3. They have a different code base, quite simplistic one, but the main difference that we are interested in is that they're based in different Yarn versions. And you can see that if you come, for instance, here on this .yarn rc YAML file, you can see that the path to Yarn is basically pointing to 3.4 for the JavaScript Yarn v3. So what I have done is that I have actually cloned these two repos here and here. This is the yarn.log file and here as well. And basically this is the file that Gemnasium will scan and will figure out all the dependencies of the project and the vulnerabilities introduced by those. So what I have here is a command to run a Docker, the Docker image from Gemnasium of version 3.13. So let me run that command. So I have the debug options. I have the log statements on debug level, so we can actually see what is happening. So this process has finished. So what you can actually see here is that we see a warning saying that Yarn workspaces are not supported, so we are skipping that. But you see that we were able to process a bunch of dependencies, and as you can see here, we have 3 reports being created. And what is actually interesting is this GL dependency scanning report. So here you can see the vulnerabilities that we have. So for instance, we have prototype pollution in Minimist, and the version is 0.0.8. So probably if I go in my Yarn log file and search for this, you can already see that this is the dependency that introduced that vulnerability. And you will see that we have more than that. And of course, after the vulnerabilities, you also have a list with all your dependencies. So basically, very similar dependency scanning reports as with all the other packet managers. So nothing changes basically. And here I can actually run this command also for the JavaScript YarnV3 repo. And let's see, most probably, so this should actually generate exactly the same kind of reports. This might take a bit longer because there are more dependencies in this project. But in the end, you see that it has already processed all the dependencies. It has already created this report where you can see all the dependencies of the project. And here it is. This report is being created. You see again, it complains, it says that there is a vulnerability introduced by Webpack on this version. So this is it basically. Let me know if you have any questions and if I can be of help. Thank you and thanks for watching.